All right. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce someone whom you know very well. A few people just making their way back. um, Frank Wade is not a stranger to any of us. He's been around here at Christ Church a lot longer, decades longer than I have. But we asked him to our leadership formation series. If you've noticed, we're sort of riffing off of different questions that God asks us. And as we're doing so, we're slowly progressing through different categories or areas of what it means to be a follower of Christ. And as we're practicing our being and growing as followers of Christ, we're also hopefully developing as those who lead within his church. So it's sort of a both and. It's a nurturing of us and equipping us to nurture others. So the question for tonight, who do you say that I am, is a question Jesus asked his disciples. And as his disciples, it's a question that sort of passes over the centuries and millennia to us. And actually, it's funny because here we center our lives as Christians and as a church around Jesus, and yet sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to answer the question. We may have a few words or phrases, but when we ask, to me, who do I say Jesus is? It unpacks all sorts of things. And another layer of what we're hoping to address tonight is how do we talk about Jesus and who he is to other people? A word for that is evangelism. It's a word that makes a lot of us uncomfortable because we have seen or associated things with it that are maybe don't fit with our values. So laying those aside, how do we actually engage in talking about Jesus, both to people within the church and to just friends and neighbors? We talk about every other area of our life. If we're not talking about the thing that matters the most to us, then maybe something's not quite in alignment. So Frank is here tonight to address this question of who Jesus is, but also in some really practical ways equip us as followers of Christ and leaders within the church to be able to talk about him.
Okay.
That's you.
You're up.
You're up.
That's incredible, Tiffany. I can hardly wait to hear what I have to say about that.
neither.
That's a
And the
Okay.
arrow keys.
The arrow's right there. Okay, very good. Let me get this in my pocket and try and put this up here. Is this working right? Can you hear me all right that way? Okay. Well, that introduction, it said that I was going to solve all the problems of life between since the Inquisition till yesterday. Is is a little daunting. But I have to say, I'm also really nervous about talking to people to come out when it's raining. I mean, I think I mean, this is a fierce group of Christians. I can tell that, and it makes me nervous. And I hope you'll just let me do what I need to do and accommodate me as we go along. So the question is, who do you say that I am? It is a biblical question. Jesus posed it to his disciples, but it's a question that everybody has to answer. You have to come to some terms with that. We are Christians. We are connected to the Christ. And what that means practically and what it means in our lives is a very, very basic question. This thing is, okay, there it is. So what I'd like to do with you is I'm going to talk with you about some of the wrong answers to that question that are popular in our culture. There will not be a show of hands as we get to each one, so just remove. These are the wrong answers, so don't be embarrassed by that. And we'll talk a little bit about what Jesus is not, that is popularly held in our culture, and then look at the question of who does Jesus say that he is? What does he say it is? And then, because I know that the reason for round tables in creation is so that people can talk to one another, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that Jesus said about, who am I? And then try to turn that conversation to the point that Tiffany was talking about. Well, how do we, what does he say? How do we experience that? How do we experience it? And then what is that, how is that experience shared? So that's where we're going. And we'll be through by 11, as I promised, and have everybody home and happy, I hope. But the question, who do you say that I am? And we'll start with who are we not? And the first thing is the catchphrase. That's what Jesus is to a great deal of our population. It is a catchphrase. I saw some shoes, they're 20% off. OMG. OMG. Jesus Christ, where did you find that? How did you do that? Jesus as a catchphrase. Somebody cut you off in traffic and what do you say? And that is, you'll be glad to know, that's referred to as religious language without theological content. That you're talking about that, and so it violates the third commandment to not take the Lord's name in vain, and we do that all the time. We use it it's a toss-off, it's a catchphrase, and that's where a great many people know Jesus, and that's how they know Jesus. And I had an experience a long time ago when I was the rector of St. Albans. A member of our parish asked me to come down. She was working in an inner city school. They were having career day, and would I come down and talk to the children about what it is to be a priest, because they didn't know that. So I thought it was a good idea. So I had a cassock alb, the white thing that we wear, and I went down to this school downtown, and and a student, like third grader, was walking me from one class to another so I could tell the story. And I was walking down, and I had the cassock alb on, and I could see a boy about 10 or 11 years old coming down the hall, and he was trying to figure out, what in the world is this? Here's this guy coming down there dressed, and you could see him just going through his Rolodex. What are the possibilities of this person? And so, he got close, and he gave it his best shot, and he said, "Do you teach karate?" Well, I was, up to the occasion, and you'd have been proud of me. I said, "No, I'm a priest, and I teach people about God." To which he replied, and walked on. So, and that's the catchphrase. I don't care anything about that. Just leave that alone. The catchphrase, Jesus. The other one is, wait a minute. Jesus on retainer, like a lawyer. That it's somebody you call when you're in trouble. And that your concept of Jesus in the house is behind a little thing that says, in case of emergency, break glass. And so when somebody gets sick, really sick, that's where you go. When you're worried about something, that's where you go. But you don't go in between. It's on retainer. And Jesus on retainer is part of what we do. It is foxhole religion. It is called funeral faith. There are all kinds of things about it. And what makes it wrong is that it's me-centered. It assumes that God's major role is to take care of me. And that if I had a lawyer on retainer, as far as I'm concerned, your role is to look after me. So when I need you, you come and look after me. And that's it, and it's all about me, and that God's purpose is to serve me. And that's a mistake. I hope I'm not upsetting you with this information, but that is a mistake. The next one is Jesus as insurance. That is, as Jesus as the hedge against misfortune. There's an awful lot of people most people don't know this until there is misfortune. But a lot of people have in their mind that, if I'm baptized, if I go to church, if I come to a church meeting in the rain, for crying out loud, if I do that, if I keep my pledge paid up, that bad things aren't supposed to happen to me. Okay? You're gonna take care of me. That God is going to take care of me because I have this deal. Now, one of the problem with that is that when you pull that contract out, you'll find that God did not sign it. But people, when you say, what did I do to, what did I do to deserve it? It's God did this to me. I'm a nice person. I'm a good person. I'm a leader in my church. I do all this kind of stuff. Why do I have COVID? Why do I have cancer? Why did this bad thing happen to me? And that Jesus is supposed to take care of that for me. And there are passages that tempt us to do that. They're in the scriptures. The 91st Psalm, you shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. And you think, well, that's a pretty good deal. Where do I sign on to that? I'll take that. The problem is that we are Christians, and when we read the scriptures, we read them through the lens of Jesus. And there's a great deal when you read the Hebrew scriptures through the lens of Jesus that simply don't convey. And that's one of them. If Christianity were a protection plan, I would have to admit that the cross is a pretty poor logo. That if the cross is part of our belief, then the idea that this belief is going to keep us safe from the vagaries of human interaction and all that sort of thing doesn't quite compute. And so when we look at our life, we are followers of Jesus Christ. That's how we make sense of this. And that insurance contract saving us doesn't work. Another one is that it's going to be heaven's password. That when I get to heaven, I'm going to say, Jesus sent me, and that the doors will open and I'll be all right. That no judgment will come to me because, I can say, Jesus sent me. And that's has a lot of problems. One of the things is that it negates the moral universe in which we live. So that if you say, well, it doesn't matter what I do because there is no judgment, or because I can escape judgment by dropping the Jesus word, then I can do that. What you're doing is negating the moral life. And I don't think that's part of the bargain. So people do that. People have that idea that, and you hear that a lot at funerals. And I've done a lot of funerals, and you've probably been to a lot of funerals. And people are, when they're buried, everybody, talks about how noble they were and all that. I remember when Elvis Presley died. Remember that a long time ago. But when Elvis Presley died, one of the commentators said that it was a good career move, that Jesus, because everybody said he was such a swell guy. Well, he wasn't a swell guy, but everybody thinks at that point, it's going to be all right, that God's going to make everything good. Frankly, my friends, if there is no judgment in life, then life doesn't make any difference. So it does make a difference. And all of the moral teachings of our faith are important. They are important and worth holding on to. And then there's one other, which is that Jesus is irrelevant. And this is I love this quote. This is I have no idea who Thomas de Quincey is, but since I knew it, it looks better if I put it up there. But I have no idea who the man is. But this lovely quote: Jesus was sublimely overgifted for purposes of speculation, but like Shakespeare's great creation, Prince Hamlet, not correspondingly endowed for the business of action and the emergencies of life. Okay, we got Jesus over here, but I'm negotiating this contract over here. I got Jesus over here, but I'm dealing with you over here. That you got Jesus is over there looking after the universe or something like that, and my real life is over here in mergers and acquisitions or whatever I happen to be doing. And that kind of separation is Thomas de Quincey. That, okay, you got this, for purposes of speculation, fine, come out, talk about theology and all that kind of stuff. But the real world is nitty and gritty, and it's right there, and that's what we're doing, and they're not connected because Jesus is not suitable for that sort of a thing. So all of those are very, very popular bad answers to who do you say that I am. And as I say, we're not asking for a show of hands, but my guess is I can identify with some of those. I would imagine that you can as well. So we turn to C.S. Lewis, who talked about Jesus in a book called God in the Dock, which is he was a great apologist, which is a defender of the faith and Christianity. And he said this: you must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or a madman, or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him, you can kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great human teacher. He did not leave that open to us, and he did not intend to. That the idea, okay, there are some moral maxims here. There's Jesus, and then there's Lao Tzu, and there's Socrates, and there's this. No, that's not the ball game we're playing. This is either the Son of God or an absolute madman. And when you read the Gospels, you realize that if you talk to anybody else who said, I am the light that's come into the world, and these sort of things, well, you're going to throw a net over that person. I mean, that's the guy who's dating your daughter and comes in and announces it. Whoa, not that. We're not going there, Fred. Not this guy. So either Jesus is a madman or something worse, as C.S. Lewis, or he's the Son of God. Now you got to do one thing or another. You really and the compromises, putting Jesus on the edge or something like that it's what we want to do. And we do it a lot. And that list that I gave you is one way or several ways of doing that. But that's not it. This is the Son of God. And this is, in fact, the story about how life was created to be lived, or it's not. He's either a nutcase or he is the Son of God. We are going to proceed with the thought that he is the Son of God. And that's where we are now. So there's all kinds of not true ways to understand Jesus. So how might we understand Jesus? So these 7 quotes are all from the Gospel of John. And they very pointedly begin with the phrase, I am, the words I am at the beginning. Now that has a biblical root. That's there on purpose. When Moses, was first getting to know God and they were working out a relationship, and Moses said, well, tell me who you are. Tell me your name. And God said, well, I am who I am, which is understood to be, I am A, I'm not going to answer your question, and B, I am reality. I am truth. I am what I am. So in John's gospel, the phrases that he picks up are these. Jesus says at one point, and all of these are direct quotes from John's gospel, I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way and the truth and the life, and I am the vine. All of those are what Jesus said that he is. Now, clearly, those are metaphors. That those are not literal descriptions. Jesus is not a door. He's not a shepherd. That's not it. So they are metaphorical. They are meant to point to some other truth, to some larger and better and deeper truth. So what I'd like you to do is to take some time at your table and look at these quotes and try to pull some themes of it. That if you were to say, what themes or patterns do you see there? And the question that I'm going to ask you is, what would you expect of such a Jesus? If this is who Jesus is, and to take these metaphors and turn them into some reality for us, what could you expect of this Jesus? Now, where we're going and from that, that's the discussion I want you to have on the table. What are the themes? What makes sense out of this? These are metaphors. What do they point to? What could you expect of such a person as this in your life? And what we're going to do is talk about how you have experienced or that, and then the experience becomes the thing that you have to share. Okay, that's where we're going. That's how we'll get to the point that Tiffany made earlier. Okay? Make sense? Okay. How long do we have? Till 8. We have until, oh my goodness, we got lots of time. Okay. Huh? Right, go to 11, right. Okay. All right, why don't we take, I'm going to say 10 minutes, okay? Take 10 minutes and look at these and see, what does it come to be? What are the themes and patterns that you see? And then the other question is, and we may talk about this together or whatever, but the other question is, what could you expect of such a Jesus as this? Okay, what could you expect? We're not asking you to say what happened or what could you expect? So, look at the themes, look at the patterns that are here. There are themes and there are patterns. See what they are, and we'll take 10 minutes and then come back and see what we got. Okay? Well, let me check with you for a moment and see, is 10 minutes enough? Are you okay? You worked out the themes and patterns from these statements, and or do you want to kick it around a little bit more? You said what you want to say. But we're not having a race with anybody. We just want to get it right. So, you okay? You think you got it down?
I think we maybe need to pin ourselves down a little bit more to,
Get what?
I think we maybe need to pin ourselves down a bit more to
Okay.
where we see it in our own life.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we see if we've got the pattern? What are the themes? And then we can turn and do that separately. And we'll because they really are two different animals. And so let's talk about it. What are how would you describe the patterns or the themes that you see in these statements? Let me start with this table here, where wisdom is gathered and whatever. So.
Well, we all agreed that the pattern is that Jesus is the access point, the conduit to, really to God, but also for us here to a life of abundant joy that can only come from God. So as a contrast with material, earthly pleasures, etc.
Uh-huh.
So that was our pattern.
Okay. Thank you very much. How about y'all over here?
Well, we just talked about inspiration.
I'm sorry?
Inspiration,
Inspiration? Okay.
how Jesus inspired you to be a better person.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Fred, you're modestly standing there.
Well, Jesus is the source of who we are. That is, we grow only by being nurtured, either by entering the door and going into his realm, or being the fruit of the vine, which gives us life. But it's the connectedness.
Thank you. Defining quality. And in terms of the patterns, what did you all see? Nourishment.
Guidance.
Care.
Relationality, in that he's the bread and we're nourished by it. He is the light by which we see. He is the door by which we walk.
Okay. I think that's okay. So what I hear from you is that Jesus is an access point, to God and to an abundant life, door, all that sort of a thing. That Jesus is a source of inspiration and empowerment. The vine, the light, the bread, a source that bubbles up within us. A source of who we are as people, again, touching this, being the same sort of a theme as inspiration, that Jesus provides us with nourishment, strengthening for the journey and guidance, and the being the path and how we're going to do this, and care, the sustaining care that we have. And the one that I would question here is that apart from the nourishment, I want to be cautious about care. That we are nourished for the journey, but I understand what you mean about care, but care can trip you into the idea that you got this deal that you're going to be taken care of, and that's its danger. It's not. I don't think it's wrong to say it, but the tipping point there is that that God cares for me, which means that I'll find a parking space, and and that that I'll be looked after, and that 1,000 will fall on my right and 10,000 on my left, and nothing will happen to me. And that's, as I say, that's a mistake, in terms of God. So care, yes, but the care tends to be, in terms of the journey and the nourishment for the journey and that sort of thing, as opposed to, protecting us from the vagaries of life. And I think that's an important distinction to hold in our heads. And I think that, that when you look at these, these are for the most part verb concepts. They are things done. They're not stationary. And that's one of the things that's really important, that Christianity, grammatically it's not, but theologically Christianity is a verb. It's something that you do. And one of the wisdom, one piece of wisdom from a thing that I used to do a lot of, which is whitewater rafting and canoeing, is that in whitewater, it's the important thing is that the person in the bow, the person in the front of the canoe, has to paddle really hard. And they paddle really hard so that the canoe is moving faster than the water. And if the canoe is moving faster than the water, the person in the back can steer it. But if it's not moving faster than the water, the person in the back cannot steer it. And the thing is that understanding Christianity as a verb, as something you do, is like that. You've got to be moving in order for God to guide you. And the person who's sitting there saying, well, tell me the plan, tell me what's going to happen, tell me you're going to take care of me, and tell me where I'll be a year from Tuesday, and then I'll take off, is not going anywhere. That Christianity is something we do, and that these are verb forms by and large. Yes, ma'am.
So isn't the Good Shepherd kind of a dangerous metaphor then?
Keep going. What makes it so?
Well, in that passage in John, he's like, well, my hired hand is gonna abandon me, but I'm gonna, make sure that you're safe. I'm gonna
Right.
take care of you. And then the shepherd also, the sheep are in the field.
Yeah.
Shepherd says, go this way or go that way, and follow along.
Right. And in that case, I would say that that the shepherd, that's what that crook is for, is whacking people into line. And that got the path here. That's what it's for. It's interesting that that's what bishops carry when they come to see us. I've been here around for a long time. I've never seen them whack anybody, but the principle is the same. And I think that it's about guidance, but the guidance doesn't do any good without movement. And so yes, and there are. I am the door to the sheepfold. That's the safe place to be. Yes. We come to the safe place to be. Christ Church is a safe place to be. All of that is true. And, so it becomes dangerous if you make any one of these the ultimate truth. And that's where it becomes dangerous. But does that speak to your point? Okay, yeah, I think your point is well taken. And if you took any one of these and said, there's, that Jesus is this, you will have missed, the truth. It's all of these things. So, yes,
Hard for thee to kick.
I'm sorry?
It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks.
Yes, it is. Kicking against the goad. That was, that's that little bar that hangs down behind an ox or a horse that they kick against. Right. Yeah. Right. And right. And that's how it works. Yes.
But there are plenty of lost sheep.
Oh, there are. There are plenty of lost sheep. There are plenty of lost sheep. And why do you think they're lost?
They've left the shepherd.
Right. And sheep gets lost, by not listening to the shepherd. And that if Jesus is offering us this to turn our backs on it, to not listen to it, is a form of getting lost. And I know some people who are I think are lost. They're lost in very comfortable places. I mean, they're very happy people. They're doing fine, but they're lost because they don't have this relationship at the center. This which is the access point to God and that kind of abundant life. So that there's that kind of loss. It's also true that on an entirely separate thing that when sheep get lost, they tend to nibble their way lost. There are very few sheep who look up and say, I'm out of here, and run for they don't do that. They just keep eating and they don't look up, and then they look around and there's nobody there. And that's what happens with most people, that they just wander off. But there are a lot of lost sheep. Do you want to say more about that, Billy? No, okay. It is a great truth. Well, okay, let's bring it home a little bit and take another few minutes, say 5 to 10. I'll get up and tell you. It'll be when I get tired of sitting over there. That's the time limit. And so the question is, what can you expect of such a Jesus? What can you, as a people, expect of Jesus who is known this way? This Jesus who is the access point to God, and therefore the access point to an abundant life and the way life is supposed to be lived. That this Jesus who is a source of inspiration, the energy behind life. This Jesus who is the source of who we are, the door and the vine. This Jesus who provides us with nourishment and guidance and care. In your life, specifically, what can you expect? How do you experience that? How do people experience that? If you're uncomfortable talking about yourself, take it this way. How do people experience this in their lives? Okay. Now, if we don't get there, we've wasted the evening. Because you can say all kinds of nice things about God, and great, good job on the cherry blossoms, and the Grand Canyon was a swell idea. I mean, you can say good things about God and all that, but the question is, how does it touch us? How do people concretely experience this? Let me tell you that sometimes it is with a troubled conscience, and sometimes it is with an invigorated conscience. Sometimes it is with an opportunity created, and sometimes it is with an opportunity denied. But the question is, how do we experience this Christ that we have just defined based on these? We'll take another few minutes and talk about that, and you're on your way, okay? How do people experience this concretely in life, okay? We begin to pull back together. If you seek the end of those sentences you're on. Are you going to represent the whole type of it? Huh? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, are we ready? We're ready. Okay, we've, all the problems, yes, we're going to start right here with the table who enjoyed the advantage of not having an ordained person at their table, so they were able to cover ground ever so much, better, so.
Okay, so the question before us is, what would you expect of such a Jesus? And some of the answers put out were a companion along the way.
How do you, let me stop you. How do you experience Jesus as a companion? I mean, I got your friends, but how does one experience Jesus as a companion?
So there were some beautiful stories told of in the passing of a loved one, a real felt sense of Jesus' presence being there.
Good.
In a tangible way.
Good, thank you.
And for me, it would be, yeah, when things are at their lowest,
Uh-huh,
sensing that
yeah.
that there's another entity. Person here.
Wouldn't it be, I know exactly what you mean, but wouldn't it be great if we didn't need to be at a low point to do that? That if we could see that, it's kind of like seeing the stars in the daytime, wouldn't it be nice if we could do that? I understand exactly what you mean, but I think it's true. Yeah, it'd be great.
There are practices that can cultivate
There are.
that sense of
Heighten that sense of touch. Uh-huh, yeah,
I think in nature, can you see God or feel God in nature?
right, uh-huh, yeah.
That's definitely my point.
You can, yes, you can, yeah. Go, please, I interrupted you, and I tend to be rude to everybody, so I'm going to do this. So go ahead.
On the personal side, I think when you look down the list of those things and you see sustenance and a connection point, an avenue, at least speaking for myself, I tried to create those things for myself, and at some point realized that it was very empty. And so Jesus was the example and to the inspiration to your table, but also more than that, providing something to try it a different way, some kind of encouragement or stronger than a suggestion.
Yeah, the most traditional answer to this question, which I think you're standing in front of, is to put the words that have been worked out in other places, is that the ongoing common experience of Christ in our life is guidance and strength. That guidance, you know what to do, you know the right thing to do, and the fact is you then find the strength to do it. The difference is that guidance is given beforehand. We know how to treat people, we know what's truth and honesty and all that kind of stuff. Strength only shows up when you use it. And that's what keeps people from a lot of using. So it said that if you sat there and said, well, I know what to do and I'm absolutely capable of doing it, that'd be pretty easy. But it's the strength shows up as you use it. So it's that kind of combination. But very thoughtful. Thank you. But that's the more traditional expression of what am I getting it right, that's the moment that you're talking about? Yeah, okay, great. Well, it was, I got it from somewhere else, so it'd be all right. This table, how'd you all do? What'd you come up with? Nothing. All right, next table. What? How do you experience this?
To me, it's just sort of like a presence, like someone who was there and you feel like he's just looking after you and like a warm blanket, and someone who's guiding you and giving you strength.
And what are the circumstances in which that is your experience? Or our experience, or, like in what circumstances is that likely to happen?
Just even day to day,
Uh-huh,
not even the big picture stuff.
okay,
So,
all right. And what? Unexpectedly, okay.
That's like up there. I mean, for me, and it's so clear, Jesus is a counter to my ego.
Mm-hmm,
Left on my own,
yeah,
my ego will take me places.
I think that's, the checkpoint, that access point was one of the words used earlier, but the check is another one. They're saying, Fred, this is really a bad idea, and it looks pretty swell to you right now, but it's really not a good idea. That's a message that we get.
Or
And
you're not seeing it.
right, you're not seeing it completely, or you're not thinking it through, or all of those kind of challenging and broadening questions. That is truth, and that is part of what we do. Anything else from this table? Anything you want to add?
To the Vine one, this is just me representing myself, but this force that flows through me.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of guidance and it's kind of strength, but it's something I experience as coming up from within rather than being put in from outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably, it's a force that does guide and give strength and produce things through me that I'm very conscious of in the moment are not what I would have come up with on my own, but what I would have wanted to come out. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for. So it's kind of, to Kelly's point, it's happening in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Where I most experience that is in moments of being squeezed. So instead of it being low points, it's more pressure points.
Uh-huh.
The points where anxiety would have popped out with irritability or something like that, and I notice a different kind of fruit.
Mm-hmm. And those circumstances help us to recognize, that which is always present. And that's one of the, one of the elements of faith, one of the disciplines of faith, is that there are circumstances in which we recognize the presence of Christ, and that it's not that Christ shows up when we are in that circumstance, whether it be a pressure point or a low point or whatever it is. It's an awareness that comes upon us that Christ is always present. And in a way, we won't get into debate with all the theologians here, but our doctrine of the Eucharist, that we say in the Episcopal Church that the Eucharist is the real presence of Christ, and we're very proud of saying that, and that's what we say. But if you slow down with it, you realize we have no concept of the real absence of Christ. So what we're talking about is not Jesus showing up, but us becoming aware of Jesus always there. And that's what Eucharist is, in a large part, not entirely, but in a large part, is us becoming aware of that which is always true. And that's part of it. And of course, that awareness can be sharpened with a variety of gifts and skills, prayer, journaling, conversations, prayer groups. There's all kinds of ways to sharpen that and make it clear. But it's not a Jesus who shows up when you're there. We kind of treat it that way, but it's not the way it works. It's a constant presence, and so it's all of those.
Something that are table to is like music or art or
Yeah.
your dog or triggers
Right.
that you feel.
It does, and part of the awareness that goes with this faith is just to approach the day that God has given us uniquely in creation, as far as we know, a capacity to be aware that isn't granted to other creatures. And there you go to art and music and that sort of thing. That take Fido to the art gallery, and it doesn't ring because that's not that's not a gift. We have been given that capacity. So to be standing in front of a painting or listening to a concert or whatever, and to recognize that it is God who has given us uniquely in creation the capacity to hear what we hear in that context is an enormous gift and a wonderful experience of God, quite apart from pressure or low points or all the other places that we do it. So that's a skill that can be nurtured. Is that recognition skill to know that. Yes, ma'am.
So is that why I always feel that I'm very close to God when I'm peeling the onion, when I'm trying to get rid of the extra.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get to the heart of the problem, and it's always a process, and it's always tiring but rewarding, but it's always that,
Yeah.
the layers. What is that?
I think you just said what it is. It's an experience of God. It's an experience of God. And that's an experience of God. You know, and the experience of God, it does not involve Cecil B. DeMille drama. You know, I mean, you know, okay, there it is. As a matter of fact, we have no experience apart from God. I can show you a little exercise. It just take a couple of minutes, but I'll show you how God is entwined. And this is a little exercise, and we'll get to the third table in a minute, but a little exercise in understanding in the book of Genesis the story that God creates with a word. You know, God says, let there be light, and there's light, and let there be bugs, and there are bugs, and all that kind of thing. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to picture a tree. All right, picture a tree. All right, now put a monkey in the tree. Now give the monkey some fruit. Let the monkey eat the fruit. Now open your eyes. Open your eyes. Okay, that's what we did, is creation by the word. I said, let there be trees, and there were 25 trees right here. And I said, let there be monkeys, and there were 25 monkeys. And I said, let there be fruit, and there was 25 kinds of fruit. Okay? Now, where are they now? They don't exist. Because when you create by a word, only the word sustains the creation. When God says, let there be light, that light is absolutely dependent upon God's engagement with the light. We stop engaging with the trees and the monkeys and the fruit, and they don't exist. That's what would happen to our day. So every place is full of the majesty of God. You know, that we only are here because God is engaged in our being here. And it's a question of our ability to perceive it. The Eucharist, you know, is an exercise in perception, not in presence, but perception. And that God is there. Make sense? And so what you're describing is an experience of God. And there it is. So you got it. How about the third table back here? Or the first table coming up last, or whatever it is you are. Okay, thank you very much from the last table.
One thing that we talked about, I just got so into whatever I was listening. One thing we talked about was, which has been somewhat of an echo at this point, but we talked a bit about how experiencing God in deep grief,
In deep grief, yeah.
knowing that God is the way, and like Christ is the way, the transcendent way, but also the human way. And so that in places of deep pain and grief that I've experienced, there too I've also felt directly tied to the cross. Christ on the cross, and his pain and his suffering and his anxiety. And so that is one way. And in that, it doesn't solve the pain, but it gives me strength to bear.
Right. And that's kind of the ask is always take the pain away, and the answer is always here's the strength to keep going. And that, you know, that's we have to argue that out with God, but we keep asking for this and getting that, and that is an experience of God, is the strength to do that. Anything else on this table?
I would say overcoming
Fear
fear.
is fear. Are you thinking of a specific fear or just generic fear? Because they're both are very real, sir.
Fears in one's life, things one has to do, and it's very difficult when you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. It's fear is one of the great burdens. I mean, it's one of the great pressure points, low points, whatever. And it takes all kinds of forms.
But overcoming it.
Yes. And the point there that I want to remind you is that the strength to do it shows up as you use it. That what we'd like to have is the strength before we need it, and to say, I can handle this. No, it's when it shows up as you use it, and that's a unique piece. Tim, you were going to add a point?
I was just thinking, we had quite a conversation about that, the doctor
Right.
And I think that business of, you said, it would be nice if we experienced some of the good things as well, but I think I see in people's lives, I see in the darkness, I see the pain and I see the crucifixion, but also, you do see people in people's lives in resurrection, how they have been through some terrible loss of
Yeah.
misfortune or sickness, whatever it might be. But you also see sometimes, you see people as they come out of that and they discover
Right.
a new beginning.
Right. And yeah, the point is, it's an excellent point, and one of the fallacies that we teach ourselves is that we learn by experience, and we don't. We learn by reflecting on experience, and that's where the experience pays off. And what you all have been talking about around the table are experiences that you've all had that perhaps have lain there without reflection, and therefore, we don't actually learn from them, the onions and whatever. We don't actually learn from it until we reflect on it in a certain way. We're at the time, and I want to share one other point with you because we're talking. Tiffany said that we would talk about sharing it, and this is the point that I want to make with you: is that hearsay is inadmissible in law, and it is unbelievable in religion. That trying to talk about Christ in theory with people is a waste of time. It's like hearsay in a court. Nobody, saying, well, I heard, the clergy say this, or I heard somebody say that, or I read in a book something. No, it's what happened, and reflecting on your experience of Christ, this Christ, your experience of that, whatever it may be, that's what becomes the valuable thing that you have to share, and it is the most important and valuable witness that can be borne. The other side of that is that's when we begin to really own it. When we really own it, when we start to say it, when we start to say what we experience. So, Christ is there, like the concentration of God is there. The presence of Christ is constant. The experience of Christ is not rare. The articulation of that experience for ourselves is rare, and sharing that experience with others is rarer still, and in that we are denying the world a great blessing. There we are. It's 8:30. You're on your way home. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.